My name is Kalen, and I'm going to do my presentation over my amazing grandpa, David Arnold Teigen. In a world that is packed with questions and conflict, I'm fortunate to be able to smile. My grandpa, David Arnold Teigen, invokes laughter and a smile to let me know that I'm glad to be in his company. Though he likes to pull my leg a bit, it's all for fun. This is his story. David was born in Bozeman, Montana on November 8, 1955, to his father John Teigen Jr. and his mother Dolores. When all of his siblings were born, he had an older brother by the name of John III and a younger sister Joan. Dolores was born in Fairfield, North Dakota, but was raised in Bozeman, Montana. Her mom, Frances Hauser, raised her, two sisters, and one brother in Bozeman. John Jr., his dad, was born in Camp Crook, South Dakota, and was raised on a ranch by his dad, John Oliver Teigen, and his mom, Madeline. They raised him and a younger brother named Harley. John Johnson Teigen immigrated from Norway and homesteaded in the early 1880s. When David was 5, the family moved to Camp Crook because his dad started working for the Forest Service. During grade school years, half of his schooling was done in an old hospital building where John Jr., his dad, was born. Other half of his schooling was in a new mobile unit that was brought into town. A memory that David remembers was when he used to go feed cows with his dad and hired man Lyle Babb. David would go driving the Jeep with the hay rack behind while John Jr. and Lyle were throwing bales off to the cows. A picture that he still remembers in his mind is when John Jr. and him had a trapped beaver on the ice. During free time, time was spent with friends while riding bike around the town. Roads were gravel, so it was always fun for him and his friends to go faster than the gravel would allow, and then they would go down. That's when they would get their jackknives out and dig out the small rocks out of their hands and knees. Lots of fun. A lifetime friend he has had is Elson Loken, and still today they get together. During the summer, David got to play baseball for a few years. After baseball season would end, they played basketball in the fall and winter. It was always a great memory because the team played in local dance halls with rafters and rods across the ceiling to hold the structure together. But he did get to play a real game, however, when the team went to a year-end event in Ekamaka, Montana, with a real court. David's late school years were spent at his grandpa's ranch. At his ranch, David and his brother John III fenced, ride horseback, moved cows, or whatever his grandpa wanted him to do. A fun memory he remembers is when his grandpa's ranch is when him and his brother were in the field mowing when a jackrabbit jumped out. You know what boys do, they have to go after it, so there they went, chasing the jackrabbit with the tractors. David about clipped the gate and on the way out of the fence, out of the field. They did end up catching it, but what do they do with a rabbit? So they just let it go and go back to work. Living next to the Little Missouri River, they could go fishing a lot. They dig out worms, and they really enjoyed this. David also enjoyed hunting. John Jr.'s dad taught him to hunt deer and rabbits in the winter so they could sell them. After grade school, the family moved back to the ranch. David stayed in town and boarded in the house with a friend during the school week, for high school in Buffalo, South Dakota, but going home on the weekend. High school years, he participated in football, basketball, wrestling, track, and sang in the choir, and also grew up a little. The summers during high school, he helped on the ranch and went to country dance. During the early part of his high school, he learned to play guitar from a friend he had boarded with. After, when he had got the hang of it, he was invited to join a dance band called the Poor Boys. Later in high school, the band got to back up a young vocalist in Rapid City, South Dakota. He says she sounded like Marie Osmond. A few years later, the drummer booked a dance up in North Dakota somewhere around Bismarck. So the band hopped into their outfits and traveled to Bismarck. When they got there, they asked where Willow City was. No one knew, so they got out the map and found that it was right next to the Canadian border, 180 miles away. When they finally arrived, it was about 10 o'clock. Also, the town had an ordinance against dances past midnight on Saturday night, so they couldn't play very long. They got their check and drove the 400 miles back to Buffalo. The check bounced, so that was the last time they let a drummer book a dance. David had been playing the six-string guitar through all this time, but later moved to the bass guitar in the 1990s. David enjoyed playing in the band for over 40 years. It was a big part of his life. After high school, he met the love of his life, Lila Zahn. He then took a semester of South Dakota School of Mines and found out it wasn't for him, so he got a job at a dairy farm near Bowman, North Dakota. Lila and him got married that following May. He drove a gravel truck that summer, then enrolled in Miles Community College in one-year auto mechanics course. After that, Lila and him moved to Miles City, Montana in 1968 Chevy Impala, with just about everything they owned. That following summer, they moved again to Buffalo, South Dakota with the same car, a pickup truck with a topper, a four-horse trailer, along with their darling daughter, Tana. Tori came after Tana a few years after. Later, Lucas and Caleb joined the family. All David and Lila's kids participated in sports, and David really enjoyed watching them grow. Some jobs at this time were dairy farming, milking 100 cows twice a day, driving truck, auto mechanics, dirt work, oil field pumping, roofing, general handyman, and propane delivery service. Today, he is trying to keep track of his grandkids. David's dad took him paddle fishing around 2003, and he got addicted to it. A fun highlight David remembers and enjoyed is when he took Jarrett, Louise, Morgan, and I to Intake, Montana to go paddle fishing. Catching and release was pretty good then. David, Jarrett, and Kalen, which I, landed 62 paddlefish in about a day and a half. David says he really enjoyed watching Jarrett and I set back on a large fish. David has gotten into long-range shooting locally with friends and competing in the F-class competitions. He also has developed a cartridge in the early 1880s for a prairie dog rifle. David has started predator calling in the 1880s for mainly fox, but also coyotes. In 2005, he started to call coyotes fairly hard. He still enjoys how a coyote can affect the gravity of the gun barrel, make it shake as they come in. David had a dog named Rudy that would go out and mess with the coyotes and come in. The coyotes would follow Rudy in if it worked right. He sure misses his dog. Now Lila and him enjoy camping by a lake, with a pole in the water, of course, but they prefer to be away from the crowd and enjoy the weather and each other. At this point, he goes by these words: "The high spots outweigh the lows, and I prefer to dwell on the good. However, everyone goes through tough times in their lives, but I feel that you need to keep looking forward. You can't change the past. Decide who you are, and who you want to become, and work toward that end, without worrying about what other people think or say. Hold to the set values and principles that make you who you are. No one knows what life holds for the future, or how long the future will actually be, or what direction life will take you in. So keep looking ahead, learn from the past, and enjoy the ride. Thank you, Grandpa."